Hi, my name is Linda Cirulli-Burton, and welcome to this channel named Above the Battleground, ACIM. Above the Battleground is based on the teachings of a spiritual self-study path known as A Course in Miracles. I've been a student of A Course in Miracles since 1992 and recently have felt the urge to share some of the profound teachings and insights of the spiritual path in order that the teachings will go deeper into me and, oh, by the way, hopefully be of some benefit to you. So today the topic can be a very touchy topic, I must say. Special relationships. I've called it the good, the bad, and the holy. And this is part one. Anyway, in the glossary index of A Course in Miracles, published by the Foundation for A Course in Miracles, it talks about periods of unsettling. And this is, I think, where it can be upsetting to do the honest looking within our minds with the Holy Spirit or Jesus. It is indeed a process that undoes our ego. It undoes the separation. But many, many times it is not without its feelings of unpleasantness, if you will, until the newness and the liberation sinks in and we're free. But it can be really a tough process at times. So let's talk about the concept of special relationships. But I cannot talk about special relationships without first describing what existed in eternity. And I share with you the mythology of A Course in Miracles because we never did leave. But there was, with God the Father and God the Son, the sonship, also known as Christ, there was perfect love, perfect unity, perfect abundance, perfect eternal grace, if you will. Just everything was beautiful. It's what we describe maybe as heaven. And then, A Course says, there was a tiny mad idea that entered the sonship at which the Son of God forgot to laugh. And that would be, I can be separate from God, separate identity. I will be special. I will have the power of God. I will have this. Now, this never happened, but we think that we did. And so a whole universe of illusion was created because of that belief. So there was the first split. The first split was the Son of God splitting, supposedly, allegedly, from the mind of God. And then there was another split. And there was the split mind. And the split mind had a right mind and it had a wrong mind. And the wrong mind created the brain, the ego body, trillions of forms. But this is what I love. In the right mind came the memory of God. We split away, but the Holy Spirit exists in part of our mind, and that is who we go to, the Holy Spirit or Jesus, in order to look at what is the equivalent maybe of our darkness. So let me say that the emotions that are contained in the body, in the ego mind that created the brain and the body, many of us are dearly familiar with these emotions. Incompleteness, lack, neediness, sorrow, emptiness, loneliness, vulnerability. This is what happened as a result of the alleged breaking away from our Creator. So what happens in the wrong mind where I am separate from you? We have our separate identities. We're different from God, but I'm different from you. And then these trillions of forms out there. So what happens is that in order to feel the feelings that we had when everything was perfect, when it was abundant, when there was nothing but love and union. We create special relationships. Special relationships exist outside of us. They can exist inside persons. They can exist with substances. They can exist with ideas. Objects, pets. My little Izzy, right behind me, snoring. And the desire is that these special relationships will substitute for the feelings that we had being part of the oneness of God the Father and God the Son. Now, this topic can make us, I think, very, very defensive. And one of the things I want to read to you from A Course in Miracles, and this is from chapter 15, The Holy Instant, and it says, "You but seek in special relationships what you have thrown away, and through them you will never learn the value of what you have cast aside, but still desire with all your heart." What I think a lot of us don't like is the idea that most of our relationships, if they don't end this way, they certainly begin as special. You are outside of me. You are separate from me. We agree on some level to fulfill each other's needs. This is what we're doing. We decide we're going to fulfill each other's needs. And that does sound gross, It does sound gross to those of us who would like to paint a pretty picture on this, but mutual needs. So I can create a special relationship with someone that doesn't respond, but I've created that special relationship. If I'm in this, I will have a sensation of importance and fullness and, just feeling really good. So I'm going to share a couple of my personal special relationships, and part of it is humorous and part of it is not. But anyway, I have this little niece, and I'm going to tell you, she's only 4 years old. This child is 4 years old. But she's showing signs of artistic greatness. How do I know? Well, she's always dancing around the house. She's always pirouetting, and sometimes she sings, yes. And she told her mother, "Do not come into this room. I am a princess." And I thought, oh my gosh, this child, she's going to be an actor or a dancer or something. And I want to be that aunt that makes her dreams come true. So I cultivate this special relationship. And I'm going to tell you something. There's times that child doesn't even notice me. I'll go into the house and be, "Oh, it's Aunt Linda." And she pirouettes, gives me a hug, and then she disappears. I don't get it. I am extending myself so that you can make me feel important and wanted and give me a sense of belonging. How dare you ignore me by going into the other room? Okay? I'm working on this one. Then, of course, my husband, who died in 2017. My relationship with my husband did not start off being what I think it concluded. I think it concluded as a holy relationship, but it certainly didn't start as one. It was extremely special, as most all of our relationships are. Remember that we're looking at someone outside of ourselves to fulfill us, to make us feel all those feelings that we don't realize that we had in union with God. Okay, but you're my target. You're going to do it. Now, I didn't realize that having my mutual needs fulfilled, I was a kind of surprised at how they showed up. So, obviously when people are dating, we always want to make the other person feel very happy, very wonderful, and really, I love that word, fulfilled. And so we may do things that are out of our comfort zone or really out of our lack of interest, right? But we do it because we're trying to charm the other person. So anyway, what happened with me was that, Jim, when we were dating, he would go to the theater with me. He would go to the Performing Arts Center. Well, you can imagine my shock. I looked at him, as my permanent date. He was a handsome man, and I thought, oh, I'm going to go out and about, and he'll be with me, and it'll be a lovely reflection on me. And I have this permanent date. Well, hey, I'm going to tell you something. The man wasn't interested in theater or the performing arts after we got married. And there was a whole bunch of movies he had no desire to see. And it took really about 7 or 8 years of my marriage for me to... And it was something that he said to me that kind of started me on another path. Because he said, Linda, I would never stand in your way of anything that you want to do. Now, I may not want to do them, but I would never stand in your way. I want you to do the things that make you happy. Well, after I got over my resentment, I started to do things that made me happy. I took my little car and I filled it up with people, and I went to the theater and I went to the Performing Arts Center, and I couldn't make my husband into my permanent date. But I thought that was interesting because I didn't realize that I was operating with a set of needs like that, Anyway, and then the third story I want to share with you is, it's a sad one because it will end up being resolved entirely in my mind, and I'm there. I think I'm there. But I had a best friend of 50 years, maybe over 50 years. In the spring of 2021, we parted ways. And now it's very easy that we had to see now that we had mutual needs that were certainly being fulfilled by each other. We went to the same high school. We were roommates in college. We had the same value system. We came from the same kind of family. During the COVID lockdowns, we talked every day. We were the wind beneath each other's wings. Everything good that you could say. And then what happened is I started to change. I started to look at things in a different way. I felt I had done research and my due diligence, and my changing was perceived by her to be a betrayal. And I really, now I get it. I do get it. For me, I felt stuffed, repressed, because I couldn't share anything that I was newly considering perhaps could be true in the ego world. So it became clear that we really couldn't talk to each other anymore. And so the friendship ruptured. And I've come now, because it's been a little while, to see her still as one of the most beautiful, wonderful people I've ever known in my life, ever had the experience of knowing. And I can see her in my mind's eye, and she's just fabulous. I can also accept that it's okay that we're not together in the ego world, because I can say that in my right mind, I love her and I accept her for everything that she has chosen to be. And I hope, I guess, that maybe she will accept me, because we are, all of us, continuing to evolve. So I wanted to share with you how special relationships, we want them. We want them to fill our need for security and safety and importance and belonging and all of those things. And ultimately, they can't save us. Ultimately, we'll have to find another way. So I hope that when we come back and discuss special relationships part 2, I do want to go a little bit deeper with the good, the bad, and the holy. And thank you for being with me today.